I've decided to start a new life without you. The words hung heavy in the air of the fancy restaurant where we had gathered to celebrate our daughter's college graduation. John, my husband of 28 years, stood with his champagne glass still raised. His announcement pushed aside the happy toast he was supposed to be making to our daughter, Lily's big day. The clinking of forks stopped. Conversations ended mid-sentence. 50 pairs of eyes looked between John and me, waiting for my reaction. They expected tears, shouting, a dramatic exit. Instead, I smiled. Congratulations on your honesty. My name is Mary Davis. I am 54 years old, and until this moment, I had been playing the part of the perfect wife and mother. I put my own career dreams on hold to support John through 3 business tries, 2 job changes, and countless times he was finding himself. I raised our smart daughter Lily, who sat next to me now, her graduation cap still on her head, her face frozen in horror. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Sarah Brown, John's much younger girlfriend, shifting uncomfortably at a back table. She was with people I had thought were my friends for decades. These same friends apparently knew about the affair, but never thought to tell me. The same Sarah who had come to our holiday parties, who had once called me for career advice. With practiced calm, I reached into my handbag and pulled out a sealed cream-colored envelope. I placed it gently next to John's plate. "What's this?" he asked, his triumphant look fading. "Something for you to read later," I replied, keeping my voice steady. I turned to Lily, whose face had gone pale. I kissed her cheek. "I am so proud of you, sweetheart. This day is still about your achievement." Then I stood, smoothed my dress, and spoke to our shocked guests. "Please enjoy your meal. I wish you all a lovely afternoon." With that, I walked out of the restaurant, my head held high, feeling 50 pairs of eyes follow me. The heavy door swung shut behind me, cutting off the start of worried whispers. Outside, the warm summer air of Willow Creek hit me like a wall, but I welcomed it. For the first time in years, I could breathe freely. Behind me, I heard the restaurant door open and slam shut, followed by John's voice, no longer confident, but high-pitched, and, "Mary, what the hell is this? What have you done?" I kept walking, allowing myself a small smile. The envelope I'd given him held the start of my plan, one I'd been carefully putting together for months. I had always been the practical one in our marriage. While John dreamed big and took chances, I kept our family stable. I was the one who saved for Lily's schooling when John invested badly in his friend's restaurant. I was the one who worked extra hours as a finance manager at Global Corp when his midlife crisis made him quit his steady job to follow his passion for selling handmade furniture, a passion that lasted about 6 months before he got bored. My own dreams of opening a financial advice business for women were always on hold. After Lily graduates, after John finds stability. 3 months ago, I noticed strange things in our shared bank accounts, small transfers to an account I didn't know. Having managed our family money for 20 years, these odd things stood out like red flags. I could have confronted John right away, but something stopped me. Maybe it was a gut feeling, or maybe it was the growing distance between us over the past year. Instead, I quietly started looking into it. What I found was worse than I imagined. John had been slowly moving money to a separate account for over a year. He had also been taking Sarah to expensive restaurants, buying jewelry, and looking at beach houses, all while telling me we needed to save money for retirement. Then came the text messages I found when John left his phone unlocked. Messages about their new life together. Messages about how he was finally breaking free. Messages about their plans for the day after Lily's graduation, the day he had chosen to make his grand exit from our marriage. What John had forgotten, or perhaps never fully understood, was that I had been a financial expert for 30 years. I understood money trails. I knew how to find assets. And most importantly, I remembered the prenuptial agreement we had signed 28 years ago when I had more family money than he did. The agreement he had insisted upon, ironically, to protect his future earnings, contained a clause about faithfulness that would prove to be his downfall. While John plotted his escape with Sarah, I was building my case. I talked with lawyers. I wrote down every hidden transfer. I gathered proof of their affair. I prepared divorce papers. I timed everything perfectly, knowing John would want to wait until after Lily's graduation to avoid ruining her big day. What he didn't expect was that I would serve the divorce papers the morning of the graduation, before his planned announcement. But with the papers still safely hidden in court records not yet available to him, what John didn't know was that I was always 3 steps ahead. I didn't return to the restaurant. Instead, I drove to our home, a large house in Willow Creek's old town that we had bought 15 years ago. The house that John had already promised to Sarah, according to text messages that he didn't realize I had seen. I parked in the driveway and calmly entered what had been our shared space for over a decade. Everything looked the same. The family photos on the walls, the old grandfather clock that had been my father's, the worn leather couch where John and I had once dreamed of our future together. Yet everything had changed. I went upstairs to the master bedroom and opened the closet. John's clothing was already packed in suitcases, hidden in the back, ready for his planned departure tomorrow. I mischievously smiled at his predictability. He had always been careful about clothing, but careless about the important things. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from friends at the restaurant, from Lily, even from John's sister, Clara, who had flown in for the graduation. I responded only to my daughter. "I'm okay. This isn't your burden to carry. Enjoy your graduation day. We'll talk tonight. I love you." I had protected Lily from the truth for months, not wanting to overshadow her last semester with family drama. She would be angry that I hadn't told her, but I knew she would understand eventually. Lily had inherited my practical side, along with her father's charm, a strong mix that had helped her graduate with honors. 3 hours later, I heard John's car in the driveway. The front door slammed open. "Mary!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the house. "Where are you?" I was sitting in the living room, calmly looking over documents on my laptop. I closed it as he stormed in, his face red with anger, the envelope clutched in his hand. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, waving the papers. "You served me with divorce papers today of all days?" "I thought it aligned nicely with your plans," I replied calmly. "You wanted to start your new life. I'm simply helping make the change easier." "You had no right to." "I had every right," I interrupted, my voice steady. "Just as you had every right to choose Sarah. We all make choices, John." "The prenup ended years ago," he said, his voice suddenly smug. "Any lawyer will tell you that." I allowed myself a small, sarcastic smile. Actually, it didn't. Section 12 specifically states that the faithfulness clause remains in effect for the duration of the marriage. Your lawyer should have explained that to you. Oh, wait, you didn't consult one, did you? The color drained from his face as reality hit him. The prenup he had insisted upon to protect his possible wealth would now cost him everything. The house, the vacation home and seaside, his share of our retirement accounts. His grand announcement at the restaurant had just become the most expensive announcement of his life. "You can't do this to me," John said, falling onto the couch. "We built this life together." "And you chose to end it," I replied, though not in the way you planned. John's phone buzzed constantly in his pocket. He glanced at it, then ignored it. Sarah, no doubt wondering where he was and why he wasn't following their carefully planned schedule. "You've always been calculating, Mary, but this is cold," he said, trying a different approach. "What about our history? 28 years together mean nothing?" I studied him. This man I had loved for nearly 3 decades. The man who had held my hand through 2 miscarriages before we had Lily. The man who had once surprised me with a weekend trip to Charleston for our 10th anniversary. When had he changed? Or had he always been this person and I had been too devoted to notice? "Our history meant everything to me," I answered truthfully. "That's why your betrayal hurts so deeply." His expression softened for a moment, perhaps seeing an opening. "Then maybe we can fix this. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, John. This was a careful plan spanning more than a year. You slowly moved our money, you looked at property with her, you planned to announce our separation publicly to humiliate me. His face hardened again. You're exaggerating. Am I? I picked up my phone, opened the recording app, and played his own voice. After the graduation, I'll tell her it's over. A public setting is better. She won't make a scene in front of everyone. Then Sarah's voice. And she has no idea about the money? John again. None. Mary trusts me completely. That's her weakness. The blood drained from his face. You recorded our conversations? That's illegal. Not in Willow Creek when one party agrees, I responded. And not when it's in your own home. I didn't record your private moments with Sarah. I'm not cruel, just the conversations about your plans to cheat me. John stood suddenly. I need to make some calls. Of course, I said. Your attorney might be a good start. I'll be staying at Clara's tonight. Clara's? He sputtered. My sister's house? I nodded. She's quite upset with you, actually. She was the one who first saw you and Sarah together last Christmas. She didn't tell me right away. She confronted you first. You promised her it was nothing, that you would end it. When she realized you hadn't, she came to me. This was another blow he hadn't expected. Clara and I had always been close, but John never imagined his own sister would choose my side. Everyone's betraying me, he muttered. Ironic, isn't it? I gathered my purse and a small overnight bag I had packed earlier. You have until tomorrow evening to remove your things from the house. After that, the locks will be changed. As I headed toward the door, John called after me, desperation in his voice. What about Lily? Have you thought about how this affects her? I paused, anger finally breaking through my calm face. Don't you dare use our daughter as a shield, John. You certainly weren't thinking about her when you were planning your new beachfront life with Sarah. His phone buzzed again. This time he looked at it and sighed. Problem? I asked. Sarah is at the apartment already. She's moved her things in. I couldn't help but smile. The apartment you put in both your names? The lease you signed last month? John nodded, looking confused. You might want to check with the leasing office. That application was flagged for credit issues and never completed. The agent called our home phone to verify information. I handled it myself. I walked out the door, leaving John to face the first of many consequences. His perfectly planned new life was falling apart faster than he could understand. Clara lived in a charming small house across town, close to the university where she taught literature. When I arrived, she greeted me with a strong hug. I just heard from Lily, she said, pulling me inside. Are you okay? I'm better than I expected, I admitted, following her to the kitchen, where a bottle of wine was already open. I never thought John would make such a scene, Clara said, pouring 2 glasses. The restaurant, in front of everyone. He's lost his mind. It was meant to humiliate me, I explained, accepting the glass. Clara's face darkened. My brother always had a flair for drama, but this is beyond anything I expected from him. We settled in her sunroom, surrounded by potted plants and bookshelves. Clara had never married, preferring her freedom in studies. Over the years, I had sometimes envied her independence. What did you put in that envelope that made him so upset? She asked. I explained the contents, the divorce filing, the proof of his financial tricks, and most importantly, the prenuptial agreement that would leave him with far less than he had planned. The prenup? Clara laughs. I remember when he insisted on it. Father had just given him that money for his first business, and he was so worried about protecting it. She laughs harder. The irony is delicious. My phone rang. Lily. I took a deep breath before answering. Mom, she said immediately, her voice strained. I'm coming over to Aunt Clara's. Honey, you don't have to. I'm already on my way, she interrupted. Dad is telling everyone you've lost your mind, that you've been planning this for months. He's saying horrible things. Of course he was. John always changed stories to make himself look like the victim. Let him talk, I said. The truth will become clear soon enough. 20 minutes later, Lily arrived, still in her graduation dress, but with her makeup smudged from crying. She fell into my arms like she used to as a child after a nightmare. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, her voice muffled against my shoulder. I didn't want to ruin your final semester, I explained. You worked so hard for this day. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. Well, Dad took care of ruining it anyway. We moved to Clara's living room where Lily finally got the full story. How I had found out about the affair, the financial deceptions, and the plans John and Sarah had made. I knew something was off with Dad, Lily admitted. He's been different, distracted, always on his phone, but I never imagined. None of us want to see these things in people we love, Clara said gently. My phone buzzed with a text message from Mark Green, my attorney. The urgent filing had been approved. The accounts I had found were frozen, waiting for the divorce process. John now had limited access to money, enough for living expenses, but not enough to buy the property he had planned with Sarah. I showed the message to Clara and Lily. Good, Lily said firmly. He deserves it. My daughter's loyalty warmed me, but I wasn't naive. He's still your father, I reminded her. Your relationship with him is separate from what's happening between us. Lily shook her head. Maybe someday, but right now I can't even look at him. He hugged me this morning and told me how proud he was, all while planning to blow up our family hours later. The doorbell rang, interrupting our conversation. Clara went to answer it, returning moments later with a troubled expression. It's John, she said, and he's not alone. I prepared myself as Clara led John and Sarah into the living room. Sarah looked uncomfortable, shifting her weight from one foot to the other, her eyes darting around the room. She was 37, not exactly a trophy wife, but still 17 years younger than me, with shoulder-length blonde hair and the kind of confidence that comes from never having faced real problems. John, by contrast, looked furious. His earlier desperation had turned into anger. Mary, you need to stop this craziness, he demanded. Unfreeze the accounts. We can discuss this like reasonable adults. Lily stood up, placing herself slightly in front of me. Maybe you should have tried being reasonable before announcing to everyone that you were leaving Mom. John's eyes widened, as if just noticing our daughter. Lily, this doesn't involve you. Doesn't involve me? She echoed incredulously. You blew up our family on my graduation day, and it doesn't involve me? Sarah touched John's arm. John, maybe we should go. He shook her off. No, I'm not leaving until Mary agrees to be sensible about this. Clara folded her arms. My sister-in-law seems to be the only sensible person in this situation. You're the one who created this mess, John. I remained seated, watching the drama unfold. For years, I had been the peacemaker, the one who smoothed over arguments and kept everyone happy. That role was tiring, and I had finally put it down. The accounts will remain frozen until the first hearing, I said calmly. That's in 3 days. The judge will decide how assets are divided at that time. 3 days? John sputtered. What am I supposed to do for 3 days? You have your personal account, I reminded him, the one you've been putting money into for the past year. That should be enough. Sarah's head snapped toward John. You have a separate account with how much in it? An interesting new situation was appearing. Clearly, John hadn't been entirely honest with Sarah either. John ignored her question. This is payback, Mary. This isn't like you. Perhaps you never really knew me, I replied, just as I apparently never really knew you. Lily turned to Sarah. Did you know he was going to announce it like that at my graduation celebration? Sarah had the decency to look ashamed. I thought he was going to talk to your mother privately. The announcement today was unexpected. John shot her a betrayed look. Cracks were already forming in their united front. I think you both should leave, Clara said firmly. You've upset Lily enough for one day. Lily, John pleaded, you understand that relationships change, don't you? Sometimes people grow apart. My daughter's face hardened in a way I had never seen before. What I understand is that you're a coward who couldn't even give Mom the dignity of a private conversation. What I understand is that you were stealing from our family while I was working 2 jobs to help pay for my textbooks because you said money was tight. John paled. That's not how it was. It's exactly how it was, Lily cut him off. Please, Dad, I can't look at you right now. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, John turned to go, Sarah trailing behind him. At the door, he paused and looked back at me. This isn't over, Mary. I'll fight you on this. I met his gaze steadily. You're welcome to try. After they left, Lily collapsed next to me on the sofa, tears streaming down her face. I've never talked to Dad like that. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. Sometimes standing up for what's right is painful. Clara brought us fresh glasses of wine. To new beginnings, she said, raising her glass. Indeed, I thought. This ending was just the beginning of something new. The first court hearing took place in a small courtroom on a rainy Tuesday morning. I arrived with my attorney, Mark, while John came with a lawyer he had quickly hired, a young associate from a firm that worked with businesses, not family matters. John's bad choice of lawyer was another result of his rushed planning. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and no patience for drama, looked at the prenuptial agreement carefully. "This document appears to be in order," she said, looking over her reading glasses at John's attorney. "Do you argue against its validity?" The young lawyer cleared his throat. "Your Honor, we believe the agreement has ended due to the long time that has passed. Section 18 clearly states that the duration is for the term of the marriage plus any legal proceedings resulting from its ending," the judge read aloud. "There is no expiration date indicated." John leaned forward to whisper urgently to his lawyer, who looked more and more uncomfortable. "Furthermore," the judge continued, "the evidence of systematic money transfers appears to break the financial disclosure rules in Section 23. She shuffled through the papers, then looked up. "I am ruling to keep the freeze on joint accounts until full financial discovery. Mr. Smith's personal account will remain accessible to him. The family home will remain in Mrs. Davis's possession during proceedings, as stated in the prenuptial agreement's infidelity clause." John's face turned dark red. "This is outrageous," he muttered, loud enough for me to hear. The judge fixed him with a stern look. "Mr. Smith, I suggest you review the agreement you signed more carefully. This court will meet again in 30 days for the full hearing after all information is gathered." As we left the courtroom, John caught up to me in the hallway. "Mary, please, we need to talk about this reasonably. 28 years together has to count for something." "It counted for everything," I replied, "until you decided it didn't." I walked away, leaving him standing alone in the courthouse hallway, the weight of his choices finally beginning to sink in. News spread quickly through our friends. Friends called daily, some offering support, others looking for gossip. I kept a quiet silence about the details, simply saying, "John and I are separating. These things happen." Meanwhile, John's carefully built image was crumbling. The image he had created, successful businessman, devoted family man, was ruined beyond repair. The frozen money meant he couldn't keep promises made to Sarah. The beach house they had been planning to buy fell through. The fancy car he had put a deposit on had to be canceled. 2 weeks after the hearing, Clara called me, her voice tinged with amusement. "Have you heard the latest? Sarah moved out." "Already?" I wasn't entirely surprised, but the speed was impressive. Apparently, she found out that John's business isn't doing as well as he claimed. The big savings he talked about don't exist. She told her friend, Kate, that she didn't sign up to date a man with money problems. I couldn't help but laugh. He always was good at creating illusions. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding. The financial security I had always kept, separate from our shared accounts, gave me freedom John hadn't expected. I rented a small office space downtown and began setting up the business I had dreamed about for years. My first clients were 2 women going through divorces of their own. Word of mouth brought more. I specialized in helping women understand their money during big life changes: divorces, losing a spouse, career changes. The work was immediately fulfilling in a way my corporate job never had been. Lily, who had accepted a job with a marketing company in Oceanside, called me regularly. "I'm so proud of you, Mom," she told me after I described my growing client list. "You're helping people during their worst moments." "I'm just doing what I wish someone had done for me earlier," I replied, preparing women for whatever might come. Being needed for my knowledge rather than my caregiving was a new and powerful experience. Lily, who had accepted a job with a marketing company in Oceanside, called me regularly. "I'm so proud of you, Mom," she told me after I described my growing client list. "You're helping people during their worst moments." I'm just doing what I wish someone had done for me earlier, I replied, preparing women for whatever might come. Being needed for my knowledge rather than my caregiving was a new and powerful experience. The final divorce hearing fell on what would have been our 29th anniversary, a fitting end to a chapter of my life that had lasted nearly 3 decades. John arrived looking tired. I later learned that his business was struggling without my financial support and guidance. Sarah was long gone, already dating a real estate developer from Oceanside. Most of our mutual friends had distanced themselves from him after learning the full story of his deception. The judge upheld the prenuptial agreement completely. John left with his personal belongings, his struggling business, and the money in his private account, which, after paying his attorney, was barely enough to get a small apartment. I kept our home, my retirement accounts, and 70% of our shared investments, exactly as the prenuptial agreement stated in cases of infidelity. The justice was poetic. The very document John had insisted upon to protect himself had become his downfall. As we left the courtroom, John approached me one last time. "I made a terrible mistake," he said quietly. "Is there any chance we could—" "No," I interrupted, gentle but firm. "That door is closed." "I understand," he replied. And for once, I believed he did. "I hope you find happiness, Mary. You deserve it." It was perhaps the first honest thing he had said to me in years. 6 months later, my business, New Horizons Financial, was thriving. I had moved from the small office to a larger space and hired 2 assistants. I specialized in helping women secure their financial futures, especially through major life changes. Lily visited often, proud of what I had built. "You know, it's ironic," she said during one visit. "If Dad had just been honest from the beginning, he might have kept half of everything." "Sometimes people can't see beyond what they want in the moment," I replied. The woman who had once defined herself as John's wife and Lily's mother had discovered a new identity: mentor, business owner, and advocate. The envelope I had handed John at the restaurant hadn't just been my escape plan. It had been the key to a door I never knew existed. Behind it, I found not just revenge, but reinvention. In securing my financial future, I had also reclaimed something far more valuable: myself.